Merry, or rather, happy effing holidays, guys. The NFL never ceases to amaze me with its ability to throw us curveballs and give us something to talk about. And the longer you stay away, the more you have to talk about. The end of this season has been crazy, and there's still 2 more weeks to go. And there's so many different storylines to attack. And we still have 2 more weeks to go. We haven't even gotten to postseason ball yet. The offseason is going to be crazy. We're heading into that stretch of the season where if your team doesn't have a chance, you don't give a shit about what's going on, at the end of the regular season into the postseason. You just care about your team and the draft and where you sit. But what if you don't have a first-round pick? I mean, what if you need a quarterback and you don't have a first-round pick? We've seen the last few off seasons with these veteran quarterbacks changing teams become a thing. There are going to be some more guys available this offseason that are going to be interesting, to say the least. Some teams have some decisions to make. Nathaniel Hackett gets fired. Who didn't see that one coming a mile away? Aaron Rodgers is not dead. The Jacksonville Jaguars lead the AFC South. What the hell is going on out there? Let's jump into this thing. The LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 307th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Feels good to be back, man. It feels so good to be home. Sometimes you get away and look, if we would have stayed another 2 or 3 days, I would have been fine with that. We were having a blast, but sometimes it's just good to be home, man. Feels good to be home, baby. Feels good to be home. Feels good to be back behind the mic. I missed y'all. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I missed you guys. And I know you missed me too. Did you miss me? Of course you did. But that's over and dead. We're back like cook crack. And man, do we have some shit to discuss. Boy, I love the NFL. This is why I love the NFL, because it's like the never-ending drama of the NFL. It's this storyline that never ends. There was a show, I think it was called Lamb Chop when I was growing up. It was like, it's the song that never ends. Come inside, my friends, or some shit like that. Come inside, some shit like that. So this is the story that never ends. Or is it, it's just a song that doesn't end? Well, this is the NFL. This is the storyline that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friends. I want to talk about what I want to talk about, and then I want to talk about what you want to talk about. So that's why we're going to have a gym dropping session, and then we're going to open up the floor. We haven't done social media maneuvers in quite some time, but there's so many topics, and I know you want to talk about a bunch of shit. So do I. So let's get to the proceedings this evening. I hope your Christmas was absolutely glorious. Mine was excellent. I got some stories to tell, or one in particular. I got my ass kicked on Sunday night, I think it was. I got my ass kicked. I'll tell you the story there, but that's another time. All right, that's another story, and another day we'll have that discussion. Today, I just want to talk about football, just because there's so much shit going on. I just want to get to the crux of that. So, without any further ado, let's get to the gym dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gym on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. Whew. Let's talk about this QB carousel that is existing right now. You know what never ceases to amaze me in the NFL? Every year, 4 or 5 teams draft quarterbacks. Another 3 or 4 go out and get veterans. And you're thinking, okay, at some point, almost every team, not every team, because there's always going to be 1 or 2 teams that have a dilemma at the quarterbacks. But you would think, and it's the same thing with coaching, every year, 7 or 8 guys get canned. And there's a new hiring cycle, and you're like, shit, 8 guys got hired last year, and here we are, another 6 or 7 guys are getting fired and hired. It's the same thing with the quarterback position. It's just amazing. You would think one of these years it'd be like 1 or 2 teams need a quarterback. That's it. Every year, 7 or 8 teams need a quarterback. Every year. You would think at some point there'd be like 5 or 6 veterans that are just hanging on, like a Brady, and Rodgers and guys like that are still around, that we respect and we know they're going to be there. They're givens, right? Then there's probably another 8 to 12 young gunners that you're like, hey, those boys are legit. Those teams are strapped, locked, and loaded for the next decade. And we have that in the league, right? Josh Allen. It's all in the AFC. We've talked about this already. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. The list goes, Lamar Jackson. The list goes on and on and on out there, right? But every year, it never ceases to amaze me. And then there's that next tier of guys that you're like, hey, look, you can win with that guy. I'm not sure you're going to win a chip with that guy, but hey, he's a serviceable NFL starter. You don't need to, if it's not broken, don't necessarily look to fix it unless something falls in your lap. Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. These are the types of guys that you look at and say, hey, I can win with this dude. Put a good team around him. We can win football games. This guy can play at a high enough level. We can get it done. And then there are the teams that are just hopeless. And you're like, boy, you need some help at quarterback. Like what you have right now, that shit ain't going to cut it. And I'm looking around at 8 teams again. And I'm saying to myself, this shit is amazing. Every year, there's 7 or 8 teams that absolutely got to have it at quarterback. They can't go into the next season status quo. Now, there is one asterisk on this list. We'll get to them a little bit later on. But I just want to go through this quarterback situation that has emerged for all of these teams. And let's start with the biggest of this group, the Raiders. This shit is fascinating to me because how many times have we talked about Derek Carr on this program? How many times have I brought up Derek Carr and I said, I don't know how much longer this shit is going to last. And I've talked about Josh McDaniels. He's the worst guy to bring in with an established quarterback because he's going to blow shit up. He did the same thing in Denver with Jay Cutler, got rid of Brandon Marshall, effed that team up 6 ways a Sunday, and left those boys stranded on the highway after he got canned. They were worse off after he left. As a coach or as anybody, and I talk about football and sports, as a matter of fact, as a microcosm for life. Anything that you touch, one of my biggest purposes in life as a man, as a human being, is to leave this earth a better place than when I found it, all right? Or when I started to be conscious of what this world was, okay? Leave this place better because of my presence, all right? That's one of leave a lasting legacy that you can be proud of, your kids can be proud of, their kids can be proud of, so forth and so forth. When you touch something in life, or this is at least my philosophy, not anybody else's. When I touch something in life, I want it to be better than when I met it. Okay? I feel like that should be the goal of any coach, player, et cetera, GM, team president, owner, whatever the case may be. Whatever you touch, when you get there, it's in a specific position. It may be in a position of peril, all right? You got it. It was in a perilous state, and it needed help desperately. You may get there, and hey, they're a solid team, but they're looking to get over the hump. There's times where, look, they're right there on the cusp of winning the Super Bowl, and they just need a little bit of a push. We've seen that, whether it was the Buccaneers with John Gruden or the Colts with Tony Dungy. Sometimes you just need that nudge, right? Just somebody to push you over the top. That's not where the Raiders are. Josh McDaniels inherited a situation where the Raiders were a solid football team, made the playoffs last year. And what did I talk about when they got rid of their interim head coach last year? I said, they should really consider bringing him back. He did a magnificent job with the team that had the most turmoil I've ever seen of an NFL team in season and still making the playoffs. He has to get some credit for that. They weren't interested. They had that new GM from New England, and he wanted to bring in his guy. And so there was no way he was going to get the job. Okay, fine. Bring in Josh McDaniels. And you're thinking, well, they got Derek Carr, they bring in Devontae Adams, they got Darren Waller, they got Hunter Renfrow, they got all these weapons. oh my God, this team has a chance to be really good offensively. And with them bringing in Chandler Jones and, having one of the best defensive ends in the league and Max Crosby, look, man, look out for the Raiders, right? And it's been an abject disaster, an epic fail. And look, I've already said Josh McDaniels, he's getting what he deserves. Karma is following him around and making sure that he doesn't succeed. The football gods are watching. They're smiling. They're pointing. They're laughing. And I'm enjoying every second of it. However, I don't feel bad for Derek Carr, but I do, because he was set up to fail. Josh McDaniels is a joke of a head coach. And we saw this coming a mile away. But Derek Carr, make no mistake about it, this is who he's been throughout his career. This is who he is. He, to me, was best suited for the offense that was there previous to Josh McDaniels, which was John Gruden. Like, running the football, heavy play action, fake, sort of that 90s style of football that fit Derek Carr's skill set. You bring in Josh McDaniels, he's going to modernize their offense a little bit more. And they've actually adjusted by handing it off to Josh Jacobs a ton. But there's just too many mistakes from Derek Carr. And that's been one of the problems with him in his career is he makes mistakes at the worst times of football games. It's not the fact, because every quarterback in the league makes mistakes. It's when Derek Carr makes these mistakes, fumble at the 1 yard line, going out of bounds, and it goes through the back of the end zone. He's done that multiple times in his career at just the worst time in a game, throws the pick against the Steelers. I think that was the one that was like the backbreaker. Okay. They had like 4 possessions in the second half straight where it's like 1 play, interception, 2 plays, interception, punt, 3 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt. And Carr was horrible in those, in that stretch. And they lost the game that they should have won against a Steelers team that's just fighting. They're just fighting like they always do for Mike Tomlin. And now he's being benched. And I said, oh my God, they're going to do this. Remember, I talked about Derek Carr. I said, Derek, bro, if you want to remain in silver and black, bro, you better start winning some games. They're going to get rid of you. They're going to replace you with a young pup. You guys are like second in the draft right now. This is when they were a 2-win team. And then they reeled off 4 straight. And Derek's like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm like, okay, good for you, Derek. Well, since reeling off 4 straight, they've lost 3 straight. And now Derek's right back in the position that he was in, a month and a half ago, where they're looking at their quarterback situation saying, we got to do better. I mean, hell, they're benching him for Jarrett Stidham. Like, it's not like, this reminds me of when the Giants benched Eli Manning for Geno Smith. Like, what are we doing? Geno Smith's not your future quarterback. Why are you benching Eli Manning? The Raiders are doing the same thing. They're benching Derek Carr for Jarrett Stidham. He's not the answer at the quarterback position for them. They've got to do something else. This makes no sense at this point. Like, Derek Carr's done in Vegas. Can we all agree on that? Like, his career in Vegas is over. He's going to be available this offseason, whether it's via trade or they just flat out release him. They're going to have to make a decision quickly because he's guaranteed X amount of dollars if he's on the roster at the start of the new league year. So they're going to have to make a decision relatively quickly on Derek Carr. He's owed a lot of money on that contract. Somebody's going to be interested. I got a list of 8 teams that need a quarterback. Not everybody's getting one in the draft. Okay. Raiders are at the top of the list now, obviously, because they're in win now. Like, they went out and spent $85 trillion on a receiver who was the best friend of the starting quarterback who may no longer be there. Like, they're heavily invested on offense. They gave Hunter Renfrow good money last offseason to be one of the best slot receivers in football. Hasn't turned out that way because he's dealt with a ton of injuries this year. Darren Waller is looking to get paid. They've already invested in that position or on that side of the football, the skill position. I don't know if they can afford to pay him. Something's got to give. They need a quarterback. They're in win now mode. Like, they're not in a position. Like, you want shit to really go bad? Like, let Devontae Adams feel like I left Green Bay for this shit. It could get real ugly in Vegas real quick. You could have some disgruntled players. It could get real. If he'll shove a cameraman because he's pissed off about a loss, what the hell do you think Devontae Adams is capable of doing to the organization, and he will destroy them publicly. Okay? Let him get frustrated. He's already shown his ass. That situation's got a chance to get really ugly, and I couldn't think of a better guy for it to happen to than Josh McDaniels. Couldn't think of a better guy. Raiders need a quarterback. And last time I checked, they're not going to be picking in the top 5. So we'll see what they do. Look, you don't have to be in the top 5 to get a quarterback. But to me, there are only 2 guys, well, really one, in this particular upcoming draft that I'm like sold on. There are other guys that are super talented, but again, we saw it in 2020. A lot of talented quarterbacks in that draft, right? Or, 2021. A lot of talented quarterbacks in that draft class. You know, Trey Lance, still to be determined because of injuries. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, slew of other guys. But those were the big 5, right, that win the first round. Only one of those guys is enjoying any success. You could argue that Justin Fields is on the incline, but I mean, again, to me, it's more about his running right now than it is his passing. He's getting better as a passer, and the running is opening up opportunities for him to throw the football. They got to add more talent around before I can make a real, conscious decision about how I feel about him. I like where he's trending, though. But all the rest of those guys stink except for Trevor Lawrence. All the rest of those guys, they've got tons of talent. And again, the other wild card in that mix is Trey Lance. We'll see what happens with him once he actually gets healthy and is able to play. But, man, the Raiders situation is really dire. How about the Titans, man? They fired their GM. We had a conversation on this podcast roughly 3 weeks ago when they fired John Robinson out of nowhere. They were 7-5. They were up by like 3 games in the division, and they looked like they were well on their way to winning their 3rd straight AFC South crown, hosting a playoff game, and who knows what would have happened. Probably got bounced in the first round, but, wild card weekend. Well, you never know, right? Derrick Henry goes off for 223 yards, and they win a game, right? Well, since they fired John Robinson, they haven't won a game. Ryan Tannehill's done for the season. Malik Willis looks as lost as a quarterback can look coming in as a rookie. They're hopeless right now. Every team coming in to play the Titans is saying, stop Derrick Henry. You cut off the head and the rest of the body will die. They suck. They just lost to the worst team in football in the Houston Texans. Family business. You know how it goes, but still, Derrick Henry always has success against them. They played the Texans earlier this season without Tannehill and still won. Weren't able to do it this time. Now they're trailing the Jacksonville Jaguars in that division. Tannehill's probably done in Tennessee. If he's not, he's still not really the long-term answer. To me, his best opportunity was last year, and they blew it, right? That's why they drafted Malik Willis. I don't think he's the answer. I never liked Malik Willis. I told you guys as much, but we'll see what happens. I don't want to give up on the young man that quickly, but keep in mind, they spent a 3rd-round pick on Malik Willis. It's not like they spent a 1st or a 2nd-round pick. I told you guys last year, there wasn't any quarterbacks other than Kenny Pickett really for you to be excited about. And the league spoke loud and clear about him being the only guy selected in the first 2 rounds. Okay? Kenny Pickett was selected in the 1st round. No quarterback selected in the 2nd. We didn't have any other quarterbacks come off the board until the 3rd round. So those teams aren't locked into those quarterbacks. There's no guarantees to a 3rd-round pick at the quarterback position. There's barely any guarantees to a 2nd rounder, but at least you're going to get an opportunity if you're a 2nd-round pick. Okay, not necessarily. What was the quarterback from Penn State name? Hackenberg, right? Christian Hackenberg. I don't think he ever really got a chance in the NFL, but that's nor here nor there. That's the rare one-off where a 2nd-round pick doesn't actually get a sniff. I'm telling you, the Titans need a quarterback. That's essentially what I'm telling you. And if they don't win the division, if they end up losing out, which is a real possibility, I don't see how they win another game this season, to be honest with you. They're going to be a top 10 pick potentially. They need a quarterback. Something's got to happen. We'll see what this out. No John Robinson, no GM. What are they going to do? I'm anxious to see what happens there. How about Houston? We know they're going to be selected first. At the end of the day, the Texans are going to end up getting, I think, Bryce Young. It's the right decision. That young man's going to come in there, and I think he's got a chance to change their franchise around. They're going to still have to surround him with more talent, but it's good that John Mechie, a guy that he actually played with, is sitting there, hasn't played a game in the NFL. He'll be ready to go for them potentially next year. That's a great story. You got Brandon Cook still. They got some young tight ends. They still need, they've got some stuff. They've got some stuff. The kid from Michigan is there playing solid football. They got some stuff. We'll see what happens. Young's going to change that franchise around. I think he's got a chance to do that. Colts. I could spend an entire podcast talking about the Indianapolis Colts. We'll talk about them a little bit later on because I find their organization, I told you guys this when the situation first happened, I find their organization to be comical at this point. But we'll come back to the Indianapolis Colts because obviously they need a quarterback. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. Their situation, they started Nicholas Foles on Monday. We had to watch that shit. He threw 3 picks in that game. They're absolutely a mess and a joke right now. And Jim Irsay, God bless his soul. We'll come back to the Colts. They definitely need a quarterback, and they'll be picking somewhere in the top 7. I think I saw somewhere where the list for quarterbacks, where teams were in the draft has been put out if the season ended today. So I got to go. I'm going to hunt that down because I know it exists somewhere. So I'm going to hunt that down and find it for y'all real quick because I think the Colts right now are sitting right at the 5th or 6th pick right now. I'm about to track it down. I'm almost there. Give me a second. Here it is right here. The Colts are 5th in the draft right now after 16 weeks of ball. So they're not winning another game. They're absolutely horrid are the Indianapolis Colts on offense. So they're not going to win another game. I mean, I don't understand why they took out the Texas quarterback. I get it. He wasn't it. You weren't going to win that division. But, I mean, it's better than going back to Matt Ryan, who they benched twice, not once, twice this season. And now they gave Nicholas Foles a chance, and that was a train wreck. Just play Sam Ehlinger. What are you guys doing? They should have never taken him out. I get it. That Patriots game was a disaster. Okay, he's a young quarterback making his 2nd NFL start. Just let him play. Anyway, I don't get it. I digress. The Carolina Panthers, they could win. One of the craziest things that has transpired this year is the Carolina Panthers trajectory this season and their story and their journey. From one of the worst teams in football, looking like they were going to have a top 3 pick in the draft and get a quarterback to change the fortunes of their franchise potentially, to now potentially having a chance to win their division. They beat Tampa Bay this Sunday, and they win the NFC South. Unbelievable. I watched that game on Christmas Eve against Detroit, where they ran for over 300 yards. It was one of the most dominant performances I've seen of an NFL team on offense all season long. Some of the holes that they had to run up were just irresponsible on the part of Detroit. When you're getting gutted that way, I don't understand how the holes continue to be that big. When they don't have to throw it, you've got to do something. It was a dominant performance on offense. They've done that this year, though, at times, where they've run it that well. But Sam Darnold is the answer at quarterback there. We can all agree on that. So they got to do something at quarterback. They make it to the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe they think, well, Sam, man, that's fool's gold. You got to do something, but we'll see what happens. Saints, same thing. They're not making the playoffs. All right, their season isn't done yet. They're still alive. I think they're still alive. They may actually be dead because they got swept by the Bucks this season, and the Bucks won. So I think the Saints are officially out of it. Andy Dalton's not the answer. Neither is Jameis Winston. They got to do something at quarterback, clearly. And then the Falcons. They drafted the young fella out of Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder. I said that he's, to me, like Ryan Tannehill. He's like a guy that serviceable. You can start him if you'd like, but you're not going to win a Super Bowl with him. Are you satisfied with that? Ryan Tannehill was a 1st-round pick. We had to get to that, and he's got that kind of talent. So even though Tannehill, we had already a perception of what he was in his league, we saw what he was able to do when he got a run game around him in Tennessee, and I don't think Desmond Ridder is that. His upside isn't Ryan Tannehill, which is why Tannehill was a 1st-round pick and Ridder was a 3rd-round pick. Ridder isn't terrible, but he's not the answer either. Again, he's in this long list of these 3rd-round quarterbacks. Carolina got one of those 3rd-rounders. I don't even know if he gets a chance in Carolina, to be honest with you, in Matt Corral, who I actually liked coming out of Ole Miss, but I don't even know if he gets a chance in Carolina. Same with Malik Willis is getting his opportunity, and he's stinking it up. I don't think the offensive coordinator is doing him any good, but they're trying to play to his talents. I think the same thing could be said for Desmond Ridder, and all of them were third-round picks in the 2022 NFL draft. Again, early to give up on young guys, but you know when you see it, you know it, and you don't really need to continue down that road. I think the Falcons need a quarterback too. This goes back to my original point, and again, they may not have loved any of those quarterbacks back in 2021, but I felt like I said, if I'm Atlanta, are you capable of passing on Justin Fields at 4? Do you take Kyle Pitts or do you take the quarterback? You had Matt Ryan, but I said Matt's on his last legs, and we should be past the point of, hurting feelings. They ended up hurting Matt's feelings in pursuing Deshaun Watson anyway. Draft the youngin, tell Matt, hey, this is it for you, bro. We're going to start the young fella next year. They could have had this thing wrapped up, because you never know when you're going to be in that position again. Always take the quarterback if at all possible, unless it's a game-changing edge rusher or a corner or something like that that will absolutely make it worth your while. You have to take the quarterback. I don't think you do that for a tight end, but they did it for a tight end. I don't think they would be in this position, but again, that's revisionist history. Washington wouldn't be where they are if they had taken Justin Herbert second overall. It's easy to look back and make those kinds of statements, right? And speaking of Washington and the Commanders, they're the last team on this list. They need a quarterback too. The fact that they're in the playoffs right now, if the playoffs started today, they'd be in, and they're making a quarterback switch. A wise man once said, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got no quarterbacks. I mean, they're making a switch in week 17, for God's sake. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, they clearly need a quarterback. Now, again, I've stated this already. Commanders fans can attest to this. If Carson Wentz comes in, wins these final 2 games, gets Washington to the playoffs, they win a game there, it changes, and he plays well down that stretch, it changes everything. They go from clearly needing a quarterback and an upgrade to saying, hey, we got our guy. Remember, this is why we went out and got him. Ron starts talking about how he watched all that film. He was the one that spearheaded that trade, right? We could be coming full circle and right back to where we were at the start of last year, which is, hey, Carson Wentz is the guy. We can turn him around. I don't even know what's the best thing for them. If he stinks or if they don't win a game and they're out, he's done. That's the prevailing thought. But then what do you do at quarterback? Like, Taylor Heineke is definitely not it. He's the perfect backup quarterback in this league. Well, you still got to do something. You're not going to be in a position to draft a guy high, right? So is it Derek Carr? Is it Baker Mayfield? Like, they've done this whole veteran quarterback thing. This is a team that you think is in a position to really strike now if they can get a quarterback to come in and upgrade the position. I don't want any parts of Derek Carr. I don't want any parts of Baker Mayfield, but that's where they are. You get a young guy. I prefer a young guy, but what young guy are you getting at, say, 16, 17 in the draft, 18? If you don't trade up, what young guy are you getting that's going to come in, be ready to start day one, take his lumps immediately, and give you a chance, say, in 2024, right? What young guy is doing that at 18? I don't know. I haven't assessed the quarterback crop, and we still don't know who's declaring for the NFL and who's going back to school. I've already seen a couple of guys going back to school already that I thought could have been first-round picks potentially, like the kid out of Washington. So I think the quarterback draft pool is going to be weakened a bit. I mean, that's 8 teams that need quarterback help. Raiders, Titans, Houston, Texans, Colts, Commanders, Panthers, Saints, Falcons. And we could be just playing musical chairs here. That's what we do in this league, is the Raiders quarterback could be going to the Commanders, and you could see a situation where Baker Mayfield goes to the Panthers. Well, he just went to the Panthers. So let's say Baker Mayfield could be going to the Saints. I mean, who knows how the hell this shit's going to end up? I mean, it's a crapshoot. I mean, that would be a Colts move, right? Their GM, Chris Ballard, he's a coward. I've already talked about this. He would love nothing more than to go out and get another veteran quarterback. Derek Carr is the perfect fit for the Indianapolis Colts. He fits right up their alley and fits the narrative of, hey, go get a veteran quarterback that gives us a chance, and we should be able to win right away. That defense is playing good ball, right? I don't know. I'm just telling you right now. Wow. Derek Carr got benched. Josh McDaniels is so clueless and hopeless. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So, damn, it just never ceases to amaze me how every year 7, 8 teams need a quarterback. Here we are again. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the next topic, man. Y'all know what it is. Social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. All right. I'm going to get to all of your comments. Y'all know how this works. For those of you who don't, it's really simple. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comments read on the air. If your comment is important or you just want it to be read and you want to jump to the front of the line, super chats are the way to get that done. It's the only way to ensure that your comment gets read. We'll get to as many as we can. I just want to start off the conversation by making a note of all of these different topics. And you guys can bring up whatever you want to bring up. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. J.J. Watt is retiring after the season. It's been a hell of a run. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You could see it was winding down for him. He was supposed to be chasing a chip in Arizona. This season did not go the way he intended. And he was like, look, and he sees the writing on the wall. That organization is in total disarray. And Kyler Murray is going to miss probably some of next year. It's hard to say. We don't know the complexity of his surgery and the damage done. But, you know, he could be back for the start of the season next year. But they're not going to win anything of note. He sees that if they would have gotten to the playoffs this year and they would have won a game, he might be back next year. This wasn't fun for him. Okay. He's done. And what a career it was for J.J. Watt. So we'll have plenty of time to celebrate him and his career and what he was able to do, you know, in the offseason when he formally retires. A Houston Texans signs a one-day contract, you know, has a press conference with them. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Derek Carr getting benched. I've already touched on that. I'm still shocked that they pulled the trigger here on Derek Carr and didn't wait until like this feels like the Broncos firing Nathaniel Hackett with 2 games left. Like, what are you looking? Yeah, you got your ass kicked on Christmas Day. It was embarrassing. You've been embarrassing all year long. I mean, the biggest difference is this time you get beat up 51-14 instead of, you know, losing the game 17-11. You just got your ass kicked, but you've been embarrassing all year long. What's the difference? Maybe, oh, they quit on them. You got 2 games left, okay? But whatever. Carr's bench for the final 2 games. Speaking of Nathaniel Hackett, wow, what a deer in headlights he's been all season long. It started with the very first game. I told you guys after this game, this guy is clueless. He will not make it out of this season. I told you guys that after week 1 when he cost me my survivor pool. I said, this guy doesn't get it. You spend all that money on Russell Wilson and your goal is to get to the 5-yard line so you can kick a 63-yard field. I think it was a 64-yard field goal. Are you insane? This isn't Denver. 4th and 5. Put your quarterback out on the field. You ignoramus. Nathaniel Hackett was brought to Denver for one reason. The minute he failed to deliver what they brought him to Denver to do, he was on borrowed time because I don't think he was head coaching material. They simply wanted Aaron Rodgers. He was a conduit to make that happen. He was Aaron Rodgers' favorite coach in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers talked about how Nathaniel Hackett kept him on his toes, kept the locker room light and the QB room light, and Aaron loved him. You know what this reminded me of, this love affair between Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett? It reminded me of Peyton Manning endorsing Adam Gase. Peyton Manning endorsing Adam Gase got Adam Gase not 1, but 2 jobs in the NFL. Adam Gase was terrible with the Jets, and because Peyton Manning swore by Adam Gase, he got another job immediately after he was fired by the Dolphins. And you're thinking, how in the hell is Adam Gase employed? Is Adam Gase even in the league right now? Speaking of which, I mean, it was insane. This reminds me of that. If Aaron Rodgers isn't Nathaniel Hackett's boy, this man isn't this is what I'm talking about. There's all these qualified guys, brothers. Let's keep it a buck. All these qualified brothers out here that need opportunities. And because a guy is out there that you think is going to help you land a big fish, you hire him and he's an abject disaster. Good for the Waltons who said, enough of this shit. This is a sideshow. We didn't sign up for this. He was here before, and now you know who this really affects? The GM George Payton. Like they're looking at him like, bro, this was your guy. This was your doing. We looking at you out of the side of our eye. You getting the side eye now. You better fix this shit. We'll give you another opportunity. You better fix this shit. You better get this right. They're gonna go after Sean Payton. If I'm Sean Payton, I want nothing to do with Russell Wilson. He does not fit Sean Payton's offense, which is get the ball out of your hands. Think about Drew Brees and how he perfectly embodied and personified the type of quarterback Sean Payton wants. And think about Russell Wilson's game. They look nothing alike. They're actually polar opposites. If I'm Sean Payton, I want nothing to do with this Denver job. So you can go and throw as much money as you want at, and I heard that he's assembling this all-star squad that includes Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator. Didn't Vic Fangio head up the Denver Broncos? He can't go back there as their DC now, can he? I mean, of course he can, right? Money's right. But yeah, that situation stinks. And you're locked in to Russell Wilson. Ooh, that's nasty. Yuck. How about the Colts situation? I said this already. I could spend an entire podcast. Remember the shit Irsay was talking when Jeff Saturday, what did I tell you guys about a coach in his first game, right? Look for that guy to have a really big chance to win. And usually, I don't think that's going to happen for the Broncos. I don't know who they're playing this week. I don't care. They're playing Kansas City, as a matter of fact. Kansas City has a lot to play for. They're not winning with their interim head coach, whomever the hell it is. But generally speaking, when you fire your coach and you get an interim in there, that first week, they're going to play their balls off for that new guy, right? If they like him. And usually they promote a guy from within that they love. Saturday came in, had a message to the team. They went out, they won a game against the Raiders on the road. It was all this great feel-good stuff. And then Irsay's, beating his chest and pointing his finger and wagging. They've lost 5 straight, looked like ass in each of their losses. And I'd love to hear what he's got. He's already given, Chris Ballard the dreaded vote of confidence. He'll be back, which he stinks. But okay, fine. Let him pick a quarterback. Or maybe he'll just go out and get Derek Carr. That's his move, right? We'll see what he does. Jeff Saturday is still being evaluated and said he could be back as well. I'll say this. They've played hard for Jeff Saturday. But, he lacks the experience, and they're just not good on offense. All right? They promoted this kid that had never done it before, 29 years old. He was like getting people coffee and bagels, and next thing you know, he's calling plays. Like that organization is a joke. And anybody that tries to argue me the opposite, I'd love to sit down and have a discussion with you, because outside of having legendary-esque quarterbacks, what have the Colts ever done? This is the thing that I've always challenged people on when they try to talk to me about the Colts being a stable organization. No, it hasn't been for over 4 decades. The only thing that stabilized them was Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. You take those 2 guys out of the equation, and that has been one of the worst run organizations in football for the last 4 decades, going back to their Baltimore Colts days. This organization's a train wreck. Anyway, I digress. To a concussion situation. Yikes. Remember I talked to you guys, I want to say it was last week, maybe the week before, and I said, what teams are you looking at and saying, hey, I don't think they're going to make it? A month ago, we were saying, oh, they're definitely in, but now you're looking at them sideways like, I don't know. But one of the teams I offered up as a consolation team was Miami. Like, I don't really like the way they're playing, right? But I thought they would bounce back once they went home. They played 3 straight on the road, some cold climate games. That the San Francisco game wasn't a cold climate game, but they played in Buffalo, and they played their asses off in Buffalo, and they still lost. And you're like, man, if they take that effort home, and they'll be fine. They got Green Bay, and they got some winnable games, man. They'll be fine. Uh-oh. Tua was carving those boys up. He gets slammed down on his dome, and he throws 3 picks thereafter. And one of the picks, I'm like, Tua, bro, what is that? Now it makes sense. Aaron Rodgers said after the game, he shouldn't play another snap this season. I'm looking at Tua and I'm saying, bro, I don't know if you need to play another snap of football, period. Like, this is dangerous shit we're talking about here. His head keeps slamming. Like, there's certain guys that just don't know how to protect themselves. Robert Griffin III was one of those dudes that just didn't know how to protect himself. Whether it was sliding, which he didn't know how to do, standing in the pocket and getting destroyed, he just didn't. And when you've got a fragile body and you don't know, like that's the most deadliest combination one can form in the NFL. A fragile body and the inability to protect yourself. Some guys just know how to protect. Like Lamar Jackson isn't the biggest dude, but he doesn't take a lot of shots. He knows how to protect himself. There's certain guys. Russell Wilson is another guy. He just gets sacked every year. Be at the top of the list is most sacked quarterback, most hit quarterback. But you get out of the pocket, he slides. Get out of bounds. He never took any really huge shots in the pocket. Some guys just know how to protect themselves. Tua can't protect himself. When he falls hard, and usually his head is the first thing to hit the pavement, well, the turf. I don't think this thing called football is for him. It sucks because he's so young and he's talented, and he's got a guy that believes in him, and Mike McDaniel, who came in, put his arm around him and said, bro, I'm going to make your career what everybody thought it could be when you were a high school player. When you got to Alabama and won a national championship, I'm going to make your career in this league what everyone thought it could be. And he was well on his way to doing that. And now these injuries have come up. And this isn't like the first time Tua had concussions in college. Like, this shit is dangerous, man. We'll see what happens there. He should be like the Dolphins. They could lose to New England. Like, New England shouldn't be going anywhere but home, and they could lose to the Patriots this week. And the Patriots, I don't want to see the Patriots. I made this point on Monday night when they beat the. I don't want to see the Patriots in the playoffs. They're a terrible football team, and yet here they are with the Dolphins team that is wounded. I mean, I guess Teddy Bridgewater could come in there and he could beat the Patriots. They suck, but they could also lose that game. Chargers, or rather, Justin Herbert's in the playoff for the first time in his career. I'm happy about that. That's another team where I'm like, I don't really love watching them on offense. And to me, it's like Justin Herbert is like the most powerful super soaker. You remember the one, that shit you pump up, and if somebody is like 100 feet away, you can hit them. Deadly accurate, right? And they've got these little super soakers where you got to constantly, like, you squirt it 4 or 5 times, you got to go fill it up. You got the shit with the strap with like 6 different containers, and you just letting off, right? Like, I feel like Justin Herbert is that elite super soaker, but they're only shooting at close range, like little squirts, right? Like, they're not using this super soaker in the manner, like, you should be hiding behind a tree and just killing somebody, like, just letting off. And instead, like, you want to get close range and just let off a little burst, a little squirt. And I'm like, what are we doing here with this guy with this massive arm and athleticism and talent, with a 50-50 demon in Mike Williams that's more like 80-20 when you throw it up for him down the field, a slot machine in Keenan Allen, and a guy that has asserted himself as a true NFL third option in Josh Palmer? What are we doing right now? I like the tight end. Gerald Everett is playing arguably the best football of his career. What are we doing with Justin Herbert here? Austin Eckler out of the backfield is a problem, and that's part of the Joe Lombardi offense, but they should have annihilated the Indianapolis Colts the other night with the turnovers and all the opportunities. And that game was still, if the Colts don't go for it on 4th down, which they should have gone for it because it was literally 4th and inches and they couldn't even get that. They're so bad. But if they would have just kicked the field goal, it's 13-6 with like 7 minutes left in the 4th quarter. What are we talking about right now? I don't know. Stop asking. But I'm happy that Justin Herbert's in the playoffs. I would rather see him in as a young gunner that's ready to try to spread his wings than to, but something's got to give there, right? They got to do more with what he is capable of doing. But It's another story for another day. How about the Jacksonville Jaguars leading the AFC South? Unbelievable. Watch them beat up the Jets on Thursday night last week. Love what they're doing. They're a confident group right now. Doug Peterson has instilled confidence in that football team. They are going to win that division. And it doesn't matter what happens with the two teams this upcoming weekend. The division's on the line. I think that's going to ultimately be the game that gets flexed to Sunday Night Football. You know, they flex a game that is for all the marbles, except Tennessee stinks. So I really don't want to see that. If Teddy were playing, that would be a really good ball game. But it's going to be Malik Willis more likely than not. We're going to have to watch the Titans 2 weeks in a row. You're going to see them tomorrow night. You're going to be like, ugh. I mean, literally, you're going to be like, ugh. Or maybe Megan Thee Stallion like, ugh. I don't know. Yuck is what you're ultimately going to feel watching that. And you're going to feel dirty and icky, and you're going to feel like you need a bath. And then you have to do it all over again next Sunday night. So saddle up, folks. That's going to be your Sunday night game more likely than not because the division's on the line. Anyway, I digress. That's all the stuff that I wanted to just throw out there. Just, boop, 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 little darts. My wife's cousin had a sweater. We had an ugly sweater party. I won first place. Again, another story for another day. However, he had a sweater, and it was a drinking sweater. So he had little balls, little balls with the Velcro on it. Velcro balls that you throw, and he had a target on his chest. And then on the back, wherever you hit on the target, there was specific instructions, the drinking instructions that you had to do, right? That's kind of how I feel about, social media maneuvers right now. All right. I got on this Velcro sweater. You guys have the, let's call them darts. Throw them at me. Okay. Let's do it. So, let's jump into the comment section, see what you guys have to say. I see I got some super chats here. Let's see. We're going to start the day off here with a super here from Bloodshot Sports. Bloodshot Sports, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Bloodshot Sports writes, happy holidays, family, to you and yours. Likewise, man. Likewise. It's not over. Still got New Year's Eve. Still got some good college football left to be played. Still got a crazy finish to this NFL season, and it's just been wacky and wide ass open, as we've talked about. Likewise, happy holidays to you and yours as well. Rosario Satara Poleski, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, welcome back. Thank you. It feels good to be back, man. He says, did you get my book, How Cell Phones Crop, Distorted, and Visually Censored Cinema? Let's Save Cinema. Did you read your acknowledgement? I did not get it yet. I did not, but I will eventually. And when I do, first of all, you thanked me in the last book, and that touched me. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes we don't understand how big of an impact that we have. I don't view myself in that light. I'm just a dude behind the mic having a fun time chopping it up with all of y'all out there. But sometimes it's much more than that. I don't realize it in the moment sometimes. And it takes moments like that, when someone, tells me, hey, you impacted me this way, for me to, this is why I always say, make sure you give people the flowers while they can still smell them. I'm so big on that. But again, another conversation for another day. Haven't gotten it yet, but eventually I will. And I want to thank you in advance for that. As always, my guy, Russ. And congratulations on the book again, man. It's a great accomplishment. Your second one, and you're rolling now, bro. You're rolling. Chaotic, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, hey, Lou, Mac Jones out here looking to get his head ripped off with these cheap low blocks. I talked about Mac Jones a minute ago. Remember, so this is not the first time Mac has done some cheap shit, right? Mac has tried to kick a dude. Remember, he tried to kick a Bears defender in the nuts twice in that game, sliding. He tried to break Brian Burns' ankle, when they played against the Panthers. I don't know if that was this year or last year. I think it was last year when he tried to, as a rookie, he tried to break Brian Burns' ankle, twisting the shit like he's Ken Shamrock. And then what he's talking about, making sure his receiver, who runs like a 4.28, is going to have an opportunity. Like, Eli Apple wasn't catching, their receiver from Baylor. That was the dirtiest, cheapest low block ever. Like, what are you doing, dude? Mac Joe, you got to watch him, because there's certain players that they're not wrapped too tight, and when they get mad, they can't control themselves. Remember, that was a turnover on that play, right? So he was pissed. And every time he's done something stupid, he's been pissed. Remember the Bears game? They're getting their ass kicked, and they were booing him and all of that shit. And he was mad, right? So he's trying to kick dudes in their nuts. The Panthers game, I think the play with Brian Burns, he got sacked and fumbled, and he's trying to break the man's ankle. Here he throws a pick, and now he's trying to take somebody's knees out. Like, when shit's not going his way, you got to watch him, because he turns it. And this was one of the knocks on him in Alabama. He's not mature, which is why it took him so long to get on the field. They said, look, Mac's a great student of the game. He's a hell of a teammate. You love him if he's your guy, but he's immature. We're seeing that, right? We're seeing that play itself out on the field. We've seen him throw temper tantrums on the sidelines. I don't think he's wrong for those necessarily. As a coach, you don't want to see him conduct himself in that manner where he's screaming to the coordinator, our effing run game sucks. Throw the ball. You don't want to see that, but he wasn't lying. Their run game at that time was stinking it up. Let him throw the football. But we've seen the temper tantrums on the sidelines. He had one in the game they won against Arizona. Then it was all smiles when they ended up winning, and he threw a touchdown pass. But he's immature. Like, he's not wrapped too tight when he gets upset. You got to watch his ass. Commando, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Papa John's or Pizza Hut? I need to know. For the longest time, I was a straight Pizza Hut guy. I grew up on Pizza Hut. That was the thing, right? We had it at school lunch every Tuesday. When we were ordering pizza at the house, it was always Pizza Hut. And then, first of all, Papa John's was for people with money. We didn't grow up with money. Pizza Hut was for the broke crowd. So Pizza Hut was the thing. But as I got older, Pizza Hut got greasy. The crust was too thick. You didn't taste the pizza necessarily. I can do better than this. Papa John's started to taste better. They had to revamp because Papa John's got trash. And I couldn't stand John Schnattner. He's a racist. So I was like, I'm not eating any more Papa John's. He got out of there. Shaq, you got in there, and some other guys took over, and they revamped the way that pizza tastes. It's a good product right now. So I'd be leaning towards Papa John's right now, but Pizza Hut isn't as bad, but I still have my days with Pizza Hut. Nick Caps, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, TH4, my QB, welcome back, Lou. Missed you. I missed you guys as well. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss that tonight. And it's a big decision. Bloodshot Sports, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, hey, Lou, I seen a wise man make a quarterback change in week 17. I know it was 1987, but it worked. LOL. Hashtag desperate. You did see a wise man make a decision once upon a time in Douglas Williams getting the opportunity over Jay Schroeder, but that was a different team. That was a different man. And that team was going to the playoffs, right? That team was a good football team. I'm not sure about this team. I'm not sure about this coaching staff. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But you're right. You're not wrong. You're absolutely right. Kyle, Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Kyle writes, should Justin Jefferson be considered in the MVP race? Absolutely, he should. He won't win it. But anytime you start challenging NFL records, most receiving yards in a season, granted, I don't want to put asterisks next to anything because this is what it is. It evolves, right? There was a 14-game season. Then it became a 16-game season. Now it's a 17-game season. So you don't want to put an asterisk. You just want to acknowledge, hey, O.J. Simpson did his 2,000-yard season in a 14-game season, right? All right, Eric Dickerson did his when he set the NFL record in a 16-game season. So you just have to make sure you mention, hey, make sure you understand how these were done. That said, I think he should be mentioned in that race. If he goes for 2 bills, that's an accomplishment. No NFL player has ever done that. So yeah, I think he should definitely be in that discussion for sure. Commando, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, people defending a 20-point per game quarterback in Taylor are clowns. There's both sides of the fence, and there are cases to be made for both. We'll talk about it tonight because I think it's a fascinating development. Who didn't see this coming? I told you guys what was going to happen after the 49ers game, right? I said, like, he's not going back to Taylor after this. He's going to move on to Carson. And I told you that before the game. I said, if Taylor doesn't produce a victory, or if we lose and it's close, but he plays well, he may stick in there. But if we lose this game and Taylor is one of the reasons, and it wasn't just solely on him, but he imploded in that fourth quarter, right? If we lose this game and we don't get it done, Taylor's going to take the brunt of the blame. That's just the way it is, and they're going to move on, and they did. But we'll talk more about it. Let's see. Tony P, 56. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Wentz again has 2 games to get his team to the playoffs. Yep. Had that same opportunity last year with the Indianapolis Colts. Just needed to win 1 last year. He had 2 to win 1. Couldn't get it done. Again, that Raiders game, if you watched it last year, he didn't play his best football, but the Colts defense let them down late. They had the lead. They had a chance to win that game, and Derek Carr made arguably the best throw of his career and helped them win that football game. The Jags game, no one played well, including Wentz. He's got 2 games. This time, you need to win both. You got 2 games, and you need to win both of them. We'll see what he does. He has a chance to. Not many guys get this opportunity to change the narrative. He's going to get that opportunity. Tony P, 56. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, Tony P, 56 writes, also, Lou, your hat is chilling at the post office. LOL. I appreciate that. I'm going to go pick it up. Thank you for sending me that. And I will go and retrieve that. Like I said, I got to get my P.O. box back, man. I've been tripping on that. Straight up. John Perez, thank you for super chatting. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP writes, Lou, don't forget a 9th team, the Jets. They might be done with the MILF hunter, Zach Wilson. If I were them, I'd go get Jimmy G. You know what? You're right. I can add the Jets. I really do think they like your boy that's going to start this week, though. Like, if he wins these final 2 games, even if they miss the playoffs, I don't think they would be opposed to rolling with him. I think they believe in him. And again, looking at where they'll be drafting, even if they finish out the season at 7-10, they're 7-8 right now, and they don't win any more games. But let's say he plays well and the defense just gives it up, and they finish 7-10. I don't know if they're in a position to draft a quarterback or not. I really think they like Mike White, right? I think they really think that this guy, I'll say this, if he doesn't get hurt, I think they feel like they would be in the playoffs right now. They feel like they would have beaten Jacksonville. They would have beaten Detroit. If he plays in those 2 games, I guarantee you, if we polled every single one of those coaches in that locker room, and hell, probably most of those players, they would have won both of those games. Both of those games were there for the taking. And not having Mike White put them in a tough position. So I think you're right. I think you could add a ninth team to that list. Absolutely. The Jets are in there, but I think they like Mike White. We'll see. We'll definitely see what happens. Let's see. All right, let's get to your hashtags now. JP writes, first off, welcome back. Feels good to be back, man. Feels good. Feels good. What's Washington's potential offseason plan at quarterback? Don't think Wentz or Heineke are back next year. We'll talk about that later on tonight. I've got some thoughts on that. And again, it's so much time because I told you guys on the show about maybe 3 weeks ago, I said, I think it was during the bye week. I did a show specifically talking about the quarterback position. I said, this last month of the season or however long it lasts, if we make the playoffs, is going to go a long way in determining the quarterback. We haven't finished, right? Like these 2 weeks to finish up the regular season and maybe anything that is beyond that is going to go a long way in determining what Washington does at quarterback next season. So clearly we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Red Wings 01. Thank you for this. Writes, good to have you back, Lou. Feels good to be back, man. Thank you guys for joining me, right? Says, hope you enjoy your holiday. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet, but yes, I definitely enjoyed Christmas and everything surrounding that. He says, JJ Watt's finally hanging him up. One of the best to ever do it. Crazy to think he may not be the best player in his own family. Isn't that crazy? When it's all said and done, TJ might actually be better than him. I just always go back to that 2010 draft and think, damn, we could have had JJ Watt. And who knows what he would have done in Washington. But I just always think about, we got Ryan Kerrigan. And not that Kerrigan was a slouch and not that he wasn't a really good player in his own right, but he ain't Hall of Fame. He ain't JJ Watt. I always think about that. But I digress. That is crazy. That is crazy that he may not be the best. But you know what? What I've realized a lot of times is the younger brothers are usually better because you learn from your older brothers. You see what they did. You're able to, take some things from them, but build upon that. So you see that a lot, in families. A lot of times the younger brother ends up being the best, or one of the younger brothers. Red Wings 01 also writes, what a weird year it's been for QBs. Rodgers, Wilson, Carr, Brady fall on hard times while Geno, Baker, Darnold, and Goff showing they belong in the league. Yeah, I mean, Geno is, I think, separate from and Goff. I think those two really established themselves. Like, I was totally hell-bent on replacing Goff in Detroit. Like, this is just a rental, right? I know Brad Holmes, who came from LA, who was a part of the brain trust that selected Goff, that traded up to select him number 1 overall in LA. I know he's the GM, and I know he specifically traded for Goff because he believes in him, air quotes. But this is him keeping the spot warm for whomever they're going to draft, 2-3 years down the road when this team takes their lumps, gets better with all the draft capital that they've gotten from the Rams, and now they're ready to draft a quarterback because they're going to suck. Boy, was I wrong about that. Like, they actually believe in Jared Goff, and he looks comfortable in that offense. And Geno Smith, the same thing. Like, if they don't do anything else in Seattle other than just build around him, would you be upset about that after the way Geno's played this year? I think the two guys in the middle, Baker and Darnold more so Baker. Darnold was on his way out of the league potentially. Both of those guys, I think, were heading for career backup destinations in their careers. Both of those guys, first round picks in that 2018 draft, both looked like they were well on their way to becoming career backups, if not out of the league altogether. And I think those two have said, hey, at a bare minimum, I should be at least a backup in this league. Baker may have made the case once again, hey, give me another chance, man. Give me like that Carolina situation wasn't fair to me. I got there late. I didn't have enough time in the offseason. Like, give me another chance. Sam, I think we know who Sam is. Even though Sam's playing well right now, we know who Sam is. I don't think anybody's like, yo, let me get some of that Sam in the offseason. Let me get some of that. Nah, Bake is another situation. He may get an opportunity to start again. But you're right, man. Watching some of these dudes, Rodgers, Wilson, Carr, I mean, Brady can still do it, but he's just missing. Like, more than we've ever seen in his career. Dudes are open down the field, and Brady's overshooting them by 2-3 yards. He can still do it though. But yeah, it's been crazy to see how everything's happened this season for those quarterbacks. And like you said, kind of just in the reverse, right? Kevin, the PRF, writes, so many NFL fans keep eyeballing Jordan Love. I keep telling them they have a better shot at Aaron Rodgers. No? Well, I mean, honestly, it's up to Aaron Rodgers. Because if Aaron Rodgers says, I want out, he controls his contract now. He has an out clause. He can tell the Packers, I don't want to play here anymore, trade me. That's what the restructuring was all about. Him controlling and deciding the outcome of his career, right? Love is intriguing, but I don't really know how I feel about Jordan Love. He's young, obviously, but it's similar to the Sam Darnold situation. If you trade for him, you got 2 years to essentially figure out if he can play or not. And that's a hard thing to do, bringing a guy into a new situation. He's going to have to learn everything all over again. The sample size is small, but you've had one really bad showing, one really, solid showing. I don't really know what to make of Jordan Love, but I don't think you can get Aaron Rodgers. And when Aaron Rodgers stuck around in Green Bay despite Devontae Adams leaving, and he knew that Adams was leaving and he signed that contract, that to me says that Aaron Rodgers wants to finish his career in Green Bay. So I think you got a better shot at Jordan Love than you do Aaron Rodgers, personally. But, we'll see what happens. Red Wing 01 writes, what a year it has been for Jacksonville. I honestly didn't think Trevor Lawrence would live up to the hype, and yet here he is taking his team to a division title. Glad to be wrong. I never doubted Trevor Lawrence. I thought that the critics and people in Jacksonville were a little bit too harsh on him. Remember what he went through last year. That was one of the worst situations you could put a rookie quarterback in. And I thought they rebounded with one of the best hires. What did I tell you guys 2 years ago? I said the best non-player hire, and arguably the best hire, or move made in the offseason was Dallas getting Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator. Look what he's done for that team. They go from one of the worst defenses in NFL history to one of the better units the last 2 years. I wanted him to get a head coaching job so that he couldn't be in Dallas anymore, so they could go back to being mediocre on defense, which they haven't been great. Don't get me wrong. But he's changed the way they play defense in Dallas. I said last year, the best move made in the offseason, clearly the best hire was Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. He's going to take Trevor Lawrence and make him comfortable, number one, because he wasn't comfortable last year. But two, he's going to maximize his talents. And look what's happening. That team has had this resurgence. They're going to win that division more likely than not. And I couldn't be happier for them in Jacksonville because they've got some talent there. And Doug Peterson's a good coach. I thought Philadelphia messed up when they got rid of him, but it looks like they rebounded well with Nick Sirianni and what they're doing. But I love Doug Peterson. And so Trevor Lawrence, I didn't think he was as good as people were making him out to be. And he wasn't Andrew Luck. You're right. That's what I was trying to tell people. He's not as good as Joe Burrow or Andrew Luck. Those were the two best quarterbacks that I've evaluated since 2012. He wasn't either one of those guys, but I said he's the next guy after those two. And he's showing it. Miss Perry writes, did you hear about T.O. in talks with Dallas about a comeback? I don't believe anything that comes out. Jerry Jones is an attention whore. So the whole Odell Beckham thing was a joke. It was a farce. It was literally Jerry Jones sucking up more. Any attention is good attention for Jerry. So I didn't buy. I remember we had the NFC East Super Friends Roundtable, and I asked Law specifically about Odell Beckham, and he said, look, man, Jerry just wants attention. Any way he can get it, he's going to get it. Did the Dallas Cowboys seem like a team that's going to sign Terrell Owens? Seriously, like, come on now. And a 49-year-old Terrell Owens. We've done this before with T.O. when he was 44. Okay, now he's 49. Are you this is all for pub. The fact that we're talking about it, that's all Jerry wants. I didn't want it to, that's why I didn't bring it up. I don't even want to give you breath out of my body on something that I know isn't going to take place. Nobody wanted a 39-year-old Terrell Owens. No one wanted, because he's a cancer, right? That hasn't changed because he's been out of the league for 12 years or whatever. Nobody wants this dude when he was still capable of doing it. Now he's 49? Yeah, right. No way. Just more fodder for people to discuss, Get out of here. Come on. Get out of here. Move it. Move it. JP, if Carr leaves Vegas, Adams goes with him. Going to be a lot of angry players in that locker room if that happens. Adams isn't going anywhere. He's under contract. He can be as mad as he wants. Now, again, it can make the situation untenable. Again, I saw this already play out once before with Josh McDaniels as a head coach. He did it in Denver, got rid of Jay Cutler, and then Brandon Marshall got rid of him as well. So your quarterback and your best receiver gone. This could easily happen in Vegas. Like, this guy is a clown. And I'm glad that Vegas is having to figure this out the hard way, because they had a coach. And again, I'm not telling them that they should have kept their interim coach. I don't know why his name escapes me right now. I'm not telling them, but they never really even considered it. They may have interviewed him. They were always going to hire Josh McDaniels. So anyway, they're getting what they deserve, if you ask me. But that's one of the big reasons that Davante Adams even came there. And now he is going to be there without his boy. And yeah, that sucks. But this was a real possibility when you signed there. Loser the Redskins fan says Commanders record with Tyler Larson starting 6-1-1 without him 1-6. He's the most valuable player on offense, not gonna lie, if not second behind Terry. Man, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one before. That's a different take there. Niners fan writes, Zach Wilson has talent, Louie. It's largely his fault, but the Jets have let him down as well. Mechanical issues, but he makes throws a lot of QBs I'm assuming can't make. Colts, Titans, Saints. Nobody's ever questioned. Look, most of the time when you get a first-round quarterback, it's not about a talent deficiency. Ryan Leaf was talented enough to play in the NFL. Jamarcus Russell was talented enough to play in the NFL. Johnny Manziel was talented enough to play in the NFL. When you take a guy in the first round and he doesn't pan out, it's not because of talent 9 times out of 10. It's because of other factors, whether it's work ethic, not taking it serious enough, lack of accountability. He strikes me as a Robert Griffin III type of guy, doesn't take accountability for his actions, doesn't think anything is his fault, doesn't think his shit stinks, and feels like, well, I'm struggling because of you guys. Well, there's only so much that a team can take, and it's only so much, so long that's going to fly in a locker room. I could have told you when they lost to the Patriots and their rookie wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, came in and snapped, and he was pretty much talking about, Zach Wilson, and Wilson after the game is like, shit wasn't on me. I did my job. You saw Mac Jones. He had to throw in the same conditions that I did. That told me all I needed to know. He didn't get it. I don't know if that changes. That doesn't change with getting benched. That's a mentality. That's how he thinks. You're not going to erase that in a 3-4 week stretch by benching him. You're not going to erase that by giving him a new chance next year. Like, he's going to have to rewire his brain. It took Geno Smith like 7 or 8 years. Geno Smith was the same way coming out of West Virginia. He didn't know why he fell to the second round. He didn't understand why he got punched in the face by IK Impanali. He didn't understand why he wasn't starting in all these different spots. It took a while for him to realize, bro, I didn't get that shit. I'm not as nice as I thought I was. I was the man at West Virginia. I'm not the man anymore. I got to figure out why I'm not the man. And you got to look inside, and you got to take a long, hard look in the mirror, and you got to hit rock bottom before that shit happens. Him going to another team isn't going to be him hitting rock bottom. He's going to have to sit on the bench and have his NFL career almost snatched from him for him to understand, hey, I got to be better than this shit. I don't know if he's going to get it. It's not a talent situation. It's never been about talent with him. Niners fan writes, people acting like we blew y'all out. If you guys gave it to B. Robinson at the 1, you might have gone up 7-0. It's a completely different. That game could have been different. If Jahan Dotson doesn't drop on the first possession, that's a touchdown. We could have been up 14-0 in that game. I mean, you guys made plays, though. I mean, honestly speaking, you made plays, but we could have been up early. Like, we had a chance to dominate that game early, and we didn't. And then once we didn't do that, I said, okay, we're going to lose the game. We had our chances. Niners fan also writes, imagine if Brock makes a playoff run and Trey gets the start next year and struggles. What even happens then? We gave up 3 firsts for him. This is a dilemma. It's a great problem to have. You don't want to have a guy you gave up that much. You just want to have a quarterback. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about. If I guarantee you the 49ers will be perfectly A-okay if Trey Lance ends up sucking and Brock Purdy is the next Tom Brady. They don't give a shit. You don't care how you end up with the guy as long as you get the guy, right? So, yeah, it'll suck. See, this is the thing that's different. The Jets gave up a lot to get Zach. Well, no, they didn't. They were at number 2. I think they were already at number 2. The Broncos gave up a lot to get, Russell Wilson. We'll go with that example. It's an easy, obvious one. He sucks ass right now. That situation is untenable right now, to the point where if I'm Sean Payton, who is the biggest fish out there and the biggest prize in the offseason of any team that's looking to get a new head coach, I'm not even interested in that job because I'm tied to Russell Wilson. I don't want any parts of that. You gave up all of that, and you still don't have the answer at quarterback. That's when this shit is rough. When you give up Washington giving up 3 first-rounders for Robert Griffin III, and him not being the answer, but then saying, shit, we got Kirk Cousins. He is the answer. And they still botched that, but they had the answer. You're willing to say, the fan base may not. They may be upset that y'all took this guy that won Rookie of the Year and you couldn't make him work and this, that, and the third, but I didn't give a shit. We got a guy, right? Like, it's the same situation, really. Same draft. One guy turns out to not be what we thought he was. The other guy turns out to be really good. Just roll with the other guy. We've seen this multiple times in Washington. If you're a Washington Redskins / Commanders, football team fan, we spent all this draft capital on Heath Schuler, right? And he sucked ass. And here's Gus Frerotte, this guy we got like in the 7th round, coming in and playing ball. We even had Trent Green, and we let that guy walk. All these guys were better than Heath Schuler. But you don't care how you land on the guy. Just find that guy. It sucks if it's not Trey Lance. You want it to be Trey Lance. You spent all this draft capital on him for it to be him. But if it turns out to be Brock Purdy, if you lucked up and it ends up being Brock Purdy, so be it. Anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and finish up the show with garbage time. So, Thursday night football. We'll do this real quick. Cowboys at the Titans. Cowboys will be sporting their new alternate helmets in this game. So they'll pretty much have on like that all, I guess, I don't want to call it white maybe, but yeah, like that, like, I guess it's white. I don't know. It should look dope. It should look clean tonight or tomorrow rather. I mean, obviously that's ancillary. Cowboys get a big win over Philadelphia on Sunday with Gardner Minshew in the lineup. Win an epic game, 40-34. And they've put themselves in a position to have a chance to win the division. Now, that said, all Philadelphia has to do is win a game, and they could put that to rest. Is Jalen Hurts playing this week? We'll see. New Orleans, that's a tough defense. If there's no Jalen Hurts, maybe. The Cow. This is the thing the Cowboys will be able to do. They'll be able to apply pressure to the Eagles to win because the Eagles will already know the outcome of the game, and they'll know that Dallas took care of business. And if we lose, we're now tied with Dallas. And all of the hard work we've put in all season will come down to week 18, and everything that we've worked for could evaporate right in front of us, right? So, or they won't be tied. They'll still be a game up, but they'll have to beat the Giants in week 18. Which, if you're in Philadelphia, you would love to rest your guys, especially Jalen Hurts, knowing that he's dealing with an injury. The extra time would do him some good. So Dallas is going to put pressure because they're going to beat the Titans. The Titans stink right now. Malik Willis is terrible, and they already don't have a great offensive coordinator in Todd Downing. he got popped for a DUI earlier this season. It's not a great situation for them to be in. So it's a mess. It's not, ideal. And they're going to struggle in that game. Dallas is going to tee off on him. They're running. He's essentially a runner right now. He's not really throwing the football well. He's not seeing the field well. And so Dallas is going to dominate that game. The only chance that Tennessee has to stay in that game is to do the thing that every team that has played against Dallas for the last month and a half has done, and that's turn Dak Prescott over. And we know Dak is going to – he had pick 6 in that game, turned it over twice. That's what he's been doing. Even though Dallas has still been winning games, Dak's been turning it over. It's a problem. Like, he's turned into like the Taylor Heineke of the Dallas Cowboys, where you're like, hey, I know he's going to turn it over. Just don't kill us with the turnovers. Like, he's going to turn it over. If the Titans can force some turnovers early, it could be like a repeat of Houston, where they have no business being in this game, but yet Dallas has turned it over a couple of times. It led to some scoring opportunities, and you look up in the fourth quarter, and Dallas is fighting for their lives on the road in Nashville. I highly doubt that. Even with turnovers, the Titans just stink on offense, and I don't think defensively they're going to be able to hold up to the pressure that Dallas is going to apply to them. And ultimately, the Cowboys, I think, are going to win that game comfortably, something like 31-10. And it's going to set the stage for Philadelphia having to win to avoid needing the Week 18 contest against the Giants. So should be an interesting game, to say the least, early. I think Tennessee will hang around early because Dallas will allow them to. That's their move. But ultimately, I think the Cowboys blow them out of that game and win 31-10. So, with that said, yes, Toot Robinson, 24. Rich Bisaccia was the interim coach for the Raiders. Couldn't think of his name. I don't know why it escaped me, but I thought Rich Bisaccia should have gotten an opportunity last year. He didn't, and that sucked. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Man, that felt good. Feels good to be back. If you're a Washington fan, I'll see you tonight. We're going to be live. Man, we got a lot to discuss. Feels like we haven't talked about the team in like eons. It's only been like a couple of days, a few days or whatever, but a lot's transpired since then. So there's a lot to discuss, and we'll do that and then some tonight. So look forward to having you guys there with me tonight to chop it up live. But thank you guys for joining me. Feels good to be back. Schedule's still going to be a little bit wacky because I'm going out of town again. I'll be out of the office again, but we'll figure some shit out. And when I figure it out, you'll know. Okay. But until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. And as always, God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.